Hi, here I wanted to discuss a double homicide of Abigail Williams, 13, and Libby German on February 14th of 2017 near the Delphi historic trails in Indiana, US. This double homicide attracted a lot of media attention for the last 3 years, and the murderer or murderers have not been identified. So Libby was raised by her grandparents since she was 3 years old, and Abby was raised by her single mother, shown here as well, when interviewed by Dr. Phil. When I looked at some of the videos a couple of years ago, it was obvious that Libby's granddad did it or was involved. But it seemed too easy, and I thought he must have been cleared and said he was excluded. But a couple years later, the killer still has not been found. When I saw the Dr. Phil video recently by accident, the same thought came again, just following my intuition. Here you can even see the canning resemblance of the early sketch in Mike Petty, the grandfather. In total, there were 2 sketches from eyewitnesses. In the second one, the potential killer looks much younger. There was also a video recording of the potential culprit on the bridge by the girls, as well as a voice recording which said, "Guys, down the hill." This is an interesting case. Statistically speaking, most likely a family member did it. And here the family dynamics, also not talked about much, are quite interesting. And particularly suspicious here is Abby's father, who's a convicted felon because of drug-related crimes, was supposed to pick them up from the trailhead. The grandfather made it his life's mission to find the killer and injected himself immensely in the investigation. He also is an avid hunter, and if you can gut a warm, large, fluffy animal, then you might also more easily be able to gut a human. And also, everyone grieves differently. He shows no signs of grief. Okay, let's get started.
Our granddaughter, Libby, was flat out killed.
My daughter, Abby, and her friend, Libby, were found murdered.
So Abby's mother?
For what? No clue. 2 innocent girls walking on the trails, laughing, giggling, taking pictures.
Here we see the grief in the grandmother. And this is at the end of the year when the girls were murdered.
The girls stuck together right up to the end.
Here the grandfather, Mike, shows no signs of grief and smiles and claims that they stuck together till the very end. How would he know?
Every child is the light of your life, and you can never imagine losing any.
So here the mother is also grief-struck.
It's your theory that this is likely the killer.
Absolutely.
Have they been able to high-res this picture and get a better image of the face and all than what we have here?
This is as good as it gets.
It's based on witnesses saying what they saw of a man there at the time, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, that was from an...
This looks very much like Mike Petty. Also, I think he was at work at this time, so technically he has an alibi. And of course, any Midwesterner will roughly look like this guy.
eyewitness person who saw a person that looked like this leaving that area around that time that day.
Okay, and then at 4 o'clock, you went to the trails, right?
My son, who was picking Libby up,
So Derek, the father who was not directly involved in raising Abby, was supposed to pick them up.
called me and said she's not answering the phone. And that was at 3:30. So my daughter and I both kept calling and messaging and texting Libby, and there was no answer. So it was just about 4 o'clock, I called my husband at work and
There was a very dismissive look actually towards her husband. Not sure what to make out of
said,
it.
Libby's not answering her phone. They're out at the trails. There's something wrong.
What did you think had happened at that point?
We probably figured that maybe they fell or got hurt or something.
But I also find the seating very strange. You know, they have the dangling feet. They all look like little kids on chairs which are too big.
Then maybe that they just couldn't, or lost her phone. You know, maybe they fell and the phone came out of her hand or something and couldn't answer. So we were just looking for them laying somewhere.
So you called the police at 5 o'clock?
It was a little after 5.
A little after 5, I called the police.
Okay.
We'd been searching as a family, couldn't find anything. And so,
So he has this little tick with his nose, which is very characteristic for him. And when you look at him, He looks surprisingly young and in very good shape. There's no sign of grief on his face.
Okay, it's going to start getting dark. Let's get the police involved here. And they immediately came out in force, started walking the trails with us, looking for the girls.
And so by 6 o'clock, there's a search underway, right? You said a lot of people came out.
Yeah. Most of the town was out. People were out all over the streets of Delphi, flashlights, walking, just groups and hundred,
So he's smiling as if he has his day in very good memory, like something positive has happened.
Hundreds of people seem to be coming out to help us look.
People split up and went through each finger of that trail system. We don't know which direction he came from or where he went.
Within an hour.
And the mother did her hair for this interview.
Within an hour and 23 minutes of her last Snapchat post, you were there.
Yeah.
Looking around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, hour and 23 minutes. You're
Smiling again.
there looking around. You don't see anybody. You don't see the guy. And he just disappears.
Well, actually, there was somebody there at 3:14. Libby's dad was there to pick them up.
At 3:14.
At 3:14. He called them first at 3:11 and said, I'm almost there, start heading back to the trailhead. And he got there at 3:14 and called them again and said, hey, I'm here. And she still didn't answer. So he started walking the trails.
Okay, that's 41 minutes.
Yes, at that time, he started walking the trails. He called me at 3:30. So he had already been there.
So it's surprising that in the media we don't hear much more about Derek, the father of Abby, the convicted felon, and grandfather Mike, who has injected himself so much into this investigation and shows no signs of grief, despite the statistics saying that it's very likely that they are involved. Of course, we don't know what the crime scene looked like. They didn't make this public, so we don't know what type of crime this was, which is very unfortunate. So this is now roughly a month after the crime was committed. Very different from the grandfather Mike. We see extreme grief in the mother, of course expected.
We pray every day that we'll have peace someday.
On the bridge, he's the prime suspect.
They didn't leave each other's side.
Again, how does he know it?
I don't know what happened out there that day.
Why does he need to say that he doesn't know what happened that day?
If there's a chance or an opportunity for one to break off or split or make a break for it or whatever, but I look at it as, two young soldiers that stuck, covered each other's back. Two best friends, I wouldn't leave my best friend's side.
Aiming to master his shot, Mike Patty knows precision and practice pay off.
So he is an avid hunter with a bow and arrow.
This area down through here is...
So here he said down. So this word down appeared also in Guys Down the Hill. So that could be ideal for a voice comparison.
This is some of the best hunting area that I have.
So that's now a month after this granddaughter was killed.
Well, you can see the hooves, the cloved hooves going in. This deer's heading that way.
The children in his family, including Libby, were fascinated by the deer tracks and other...
God, this rubbish news reporting. This is a problem with American news. It's all sensational.
Wildlife in hiding.
You can see coyote tracks there. This next season will be...
So we see him walking here as well. I mean, there was this video of the guy walking on the bridge, which can be used for comparison.
Coyote tracks that...
Of course, on the bridge, the spacing between the wooden beams makes the walk quite unnatural.
There. This next season will be probably a little... it will be different.
A little different and smiling. This is 1 month after his granddaughter was killed. Why is he smiling?
Because the time spent that usually you're just soaking in the great outdoors and the
enjoying the great outdoors at this moment.
Experience. There'll be a lot of thoughts running through my head, about the loss of Libby and how that has affected our whole family. So it'll be a different hunting season, for sure.
He's just thinking about hunting.
And Mima, as Abby called them, keep her belongings just where she left them.
Her things are still here. We just can't. We can't erase her from our lives, and we don't want to.
The grandparents of Abby are also grieving. and shows his very natural response to the death of their granddaughter. Here's another very suspicious video. So this is just 3 days after they were found killed. 3 days afterwards.
My name's Mike Patty. I'm the grandfather of Liberty German. Just got off of a bike ride coming out of Delphi that I've
3 days after the granddaughter was found, murdered.
done in her and Abby's honor. That was a pretty awesome experience.
Awesome experience and laughing. He is enjoying himself.
Thousands of people were in attendance, so normally I could go things from the cuff, but my mind's been a blur of these last few days. So with Liberty's life taken from our world way too early, there are some things we'd like to do and honor her life.
So he's reading this note in small print without glasses. Later on he has glasses on. Doesn't mean a lot, but just interesting.
We're working to create a scholarship fund to help others seek to further their education, as Liberty was committed to doing the same by pursuing a college education. We also want to honor her by supporting the sports programs she loved. To honor her both memory and passion for these things, we've established a GoFundMe account available at gofundme.com/liberty-german.
He was a little shaken in unbelief somehow. It just could indicate that he's not really in touch with his GoFundMe account, or that he doesn't understand how it works. But it's amazing, they have already this scholarship and this fund is set up, and I think they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is again 3 days after she was found murdered. This is now roughly a month after she was murdered.
A phrase that was jokingly attached to Libby and our family.
You see he's involved in these press conferences, in the search. It's a full-time job.
Or raising children know how kids can be. A phrase that was jokingly attached to Libby and our family, from asking her to pick up her shoes, her school backpack, her coat. Her first reply would almost always be, "I will, in a minute."
So this is very interesting, because when you talk about someone who just has been killed, he talks about something negative. This is very suspicious.
We joked with her about this all the time. I believe if she were able to speak, she would ask people, please, give her the 1 minute she always asked for.
So it sounds like something positive, but it's a criticism of her. Now he's also wearing glasses to read. But again, maybe these are not very strong glasses.
We also say thank you for all the generous donations for the reward fund.
It's 1 month after she was killed.
With their donation, the reward fund is now well over $200,000. The other donations we've received in Libby's name have been utilized to establish a scholarship fund.
Amazing.
In her name. And the rest of the funds we hope to be used to build a softball field and park in the memory of the girls, so they'll be remembered forever and have something for everyone to enjoy.
1 month later.
Now, I would like to thank the news media. I've had several conversations with many of you.
Again, he's thinking and thinking. If you're so grief-struck, you would not be able to do all this.
Your professionalism and respect for our families has been honorable. We've lost our children, and nothing will bring them back.
So he thanks the police and media, but technically it was not a success. They didn't find the murderer.
Well,
Laughing?
I'm glad she had the wherewithal to do that, and I certainly hope that that proves to be the vital piece, that helps bring resolution to this. Obviously, we're proud. It's too bad it had to happen like that,
He's laughing. So in my opinion, much more focus should be on the grandfather and the father, Derek. Even if he has an alibi for this afternoon, it could be that Derek, the father, abducted the 2 girls, and that later that day he helped kill them, and then they were found the following day. The prime suspects should be Mike and Derek. The fact that the police is unsuccessful could also mean that there's a bigger pedophile issue going on in this area. Maybe a pedophile ring where the police is involved. There could be also some satanic cult, again, where officials are involved, and that's why there's no progress. It's also sometimes worth thinking about what else happened around this time. So first, it was Valentine's Day. Not sure what this means, but it's somewhat a special day. And then on this day also Simone Biles, the famous gymnast, won a medal. Also in her case, again, she was a victim of a pedophile doctor. Could be completely unrelated, but this stuff was sort of hanging in the air. Another interesting thing is that Abigail Williams, when you look her up on the internet, she was a 12-year-old girl, and along with another girl, in the 17th century of colonial Massachusetts, she was the first of children to accuse neighbors of witchcraft. These accusations eventually led to the Salem witch trial, in which 200 people were accused and 19 were hanged. So it's an interesting name analogy with the 17th century and witchcraft. So this case is super interesting. It just is suspicious that the police hasn't made any progress, and the two prime suspects don't seem to be under investigation, or at least there's no discussion about them at all. Okay, so I hope you liked this analysis, and talk to you next time. Bye.